Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Deborah Mountenay from the Elgin-Middlesex-Oxford Workforce Planning and Development Board. I'm here with Summer Burton from Literacy Link South Central to introduce your new Local Employment Planning Council, or LEPC. Local Employment Planning Councils are being piloted by the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities as part of the current transformation of employment and training services, offering a place-based local approach to workforce development. Through LEPCs, we hope to improve local labor market conditions, drive innovation in service delivery based on solid evidence, and work together to plan and deliver employment and training programs and services that truly meet the needs of each community. The Local Employment Planning Council pilots will operate for an 18-month period. During that time, we will act as an employer hub within the community, promoting local employment and training programs to employers, while working to improve both service coordination and integrated local planning, both in and outside of Employment Ontario. The results of our work with employers and service providers will be provided to the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities regularly throughout the pilot, and presented in depth through a final Community Labour Market Planning report. To tell you more about the LEPC, its working areas, structure, and overall goals, I'm going to pass you over to Summer.
Thank you, Deb. The Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities will first pilot LEPCs in 8 communities to inform, further design, assess, and evaluate the effectiveness of the model. The 8 LEPCs are shown on your screen, and the area specifically supported by this LEPC pilot, the London-Middlesex-Oxford-Elgin region, is shown on the provided map. Two organizations with a long history of working with employers and service providers in London, Middlesex, Oxford, and Elgin will be partnering to serve as your local employment planning council. The project is being led by Deborah Mountenay and the staff of the Elgin-Middlesex-Oxford Workforce Planning and Development Board, and is supported by Tamara Cottery and the staff of Literacy Link South Central. Representatives from each organization will be working together, combining their expertise to achieve the goals and deliverables of this pilot. The Workforce Planning and Development Board and Literacy Link South Central are far from the only stakeholders in this project. To ensure a balance of viewpoints, local perspectives and voices are deeply involved in the LEPC's success, a series of working groups have been established. There are workforce development tables specific to each of the areas involved in this project, a Francophone-specific workforce planning table, and working groups with experts on industry engagement and labor market information. Another working group consists of representatives from different ministries and levels of government, and there's also a group specifically working to coordinate service planning. Each of these groups connects to the LEPC Central Planning Table, which will guide the direction of the overall pilot. There are 7 key elements the LEPC team will use to meet the objectives of this pilot. I'm going to go over each one of these separately in a moment. We'll be talking more about each element that you see on the screen one by one. The first element, and the one that lays the foundation for much of the work ahead, is developing partnerships with community stakeholders in each of the LEPC service areas. As both the Workforce Planning Board and Literacy Link South Central have been working in each of these areas for years, we're lucky to have already developed many solid relationships with employers, labor organizations, employment and training services, educational institutions, literacy programs, and more. We look forward to further developing those relationships and connecting with even more stakeholders within each LEPC service area. When we looked at the LEPC governance structure earlier, you will have noticed several distinct planning groups and tables with targeted focuses. This diverse structure was put in place to ensure that there's an outlet for community stakeholders to share their input, so their needs and those of their fields or sectors are taken into account. Service coordination for employers refers to ensuring that they are both aware of the local employment and training services available to support them, and that they can access them quickly and easily. Through outreach with employers and the use of new and existing referral partnerships, we will identify workforce development needs and then work to ensure that there are employment and training services in place to meet those needs. Integrated local planning is probably the most complex focus. As you would expect, with planning taking place in 3 separate counties and a major city, with a variety of stakeholders, each of whom have different perspectives, goals, and success indicators. To make the process as clear as possible, we've broken down integrated local planning into 5 specific actions. Coordinate input to service planning, lead workforce development planning, support labor force adjustment, support local economic and community development, and improve local labor market conditions. First, we will coordinate input to service planning by providing a thorough review of the employment and training services available throughout each LEPC service area. We will combine that knowledge with information about local labor market and employment programs, policies, and initiatives. We will discuss these elements with the LEPC Central Planning Table and other stakeholders to ensure that each is taken into account when conducting service planning throughout our diverse local areas. Having a good understanding of available service gives us one perspective on our planning needs, and another comes from looking not only at what is currently available, but what will need to be available in the future. We will be analyzing dominant and high-growth industries and holding discussions with local businesses and industry sectors to identify the skills that will be needed in the local workforce going forward. We will also be conducting soft skills and literacy skills with the needs of employers both today and in the future. Ultimately, we will support adjustments within the local labor force by not only promoting employment opportunities to potential workers who could fill them, but by connecting our local employment and training services with the labor market information they need to supply the most in-demand and relevant services possible. The last piece of integrated local planning is recognizing that there are many ways to help improve local labor market conditions, in addition to identifying labor market needs and ensuring that there are employment and training services in place to respond to them. We will also be acting as promoters of growth within each of our local areas, working to advance infrastructure development projects, support economic planning initiatives, stimulate community development, and draw new employers and industries into our area. While we've made every effort to include a variety of stakeholder voices in the LEPC governance structure, we will certainly be working well beyond that central group as well. Through one particularly exciting element, research and innovation, we will be accepting applications from interested community stakeholders who wish to develop projects that research and pilot innovative approaches to local labor market challenges and opportunities. A process will be put in place for the LEPC to fund projects that promote labor market growth, and we look forward to collaborating with successful applicants as they use those funds to effect real change in their local communities. We recognize that throughout the LEPC service area, there are strategies already in place that are working really well. To ensure the efficiency of this pilot and respect the excellent work already being done, we will identify local initiatives that result in real labor market change within each community. We will be looking at where and how these best practices can be utilized as we respect the different needs and goals that exist within the LEPC service area. As you've already heard, research is key to the success of this LEPC pilot, and when combined with hard data, will be the main guide of our work. We will be analyzing the data gathered through a variety of research sources to identify labor market characteristics, challenges, and opportunities that we can act on. Progress on all of the work we've described to you, especially the labor market information we will be collecting, will be communicated to stakeholders by not only Deborah, Tamara, and the other members of the LEPC team, but also by our communications officer, Tricia Flatley, throughout the project. A fully bilingual website is being developed, and we look forward to sharing information with you there and through a host of other mediums. Now that you have an idea of what the Local Employment Planning Council will be doing, we wanted to share the timelines we're working within. As Deborah said earlier, the LEPC is an 18-month pilot. The first 4 months of the project are the startup phase, where we've been hiring staff, establishing protocols, setting up the LEPC governance structure, and developing a strategic plan. Starting on April 1st, we will be moving into the actual launch of the pilot, and will begin implementing the project deliverables and goals. All LEPCs will be evaluated by the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities using the same 3 dimensions of service delivery success used across other Employment Ontario performance management frameworks. They are customer service, the level of stakeholder satisfaction with LEPC services and activities; effectiveness, the ability of the LEPC to effectively engage and meet the needs of local employers, service providers, and other diverse community stakeholders; and efficiency, the efficiency by which services are provided within the local community. In addition to the evaluation of all LEPCs being conducted through MTCU, an external evaluator will also be brought on board to evaluate the LEPC pilot here in the London-Middlesex-Oxford-Elgin region, looking specifically at how successful it has been in meeting its intended goals. We hope you will join us in making this LEPC pilot a success. We've arranged 2 specific opportunities for service providers and interested community members to provide their input on key trends and issues within the LEPC service area. We will be hosting 2 service planning community workshops, one on the morning of March 3rd and the other on the morning of March 10th. Please watch for more information, including on how to register, coming soon. We are also launching an online survey that will allow those who cannot attend an in-person session the opportunity to share their valuable perspectives as well. As I mentioned, when we were looking at the individual elements of the pilot, we believe in the importance of frequent and clear communication. You will be receiving updates from our communications officer, Tricia Flatley, and are welcome to share them and the recording of today's webinar with others in this community. A PDF copy of the webinar slide deck is available for you to download from the Handouts section of the GoToWebinar toolbar and will also be posted along with the recording of today's webinar. We are pleased to announce that we will be sharing the LEPC strategic plan with the broader community at the Employer One survey results meeting on the morning of March 23rd. If you haven't already RSVP'd to that event, please do so by emailing Jane Kemp at the Workforce Planning Board. Her email address is shown on your screen. And as we move forward, if you have any questions about this pilot, please do reach out. You can reach us by email at lepc@workforcedevelopment.ca. Behind the scenes, we'll be working with the members of the LEPC governance structure as they continue to meet and guide this project. As we work through the startup phase of the pilot, we will continue to gather locally produced research along with your perspectives and ideas, each of which will inform the final version of our strategic plan. To conclude today's webinar, I'm going to pass the floor back to Deborah Mountenay from the Workforce Planning Board.
Thank you, Summer, and thanks to all of you for attending today's webinar. The team at the Workforce Planning Board and Literacy Link South Central are looking forward to working with employers and service providers throughout Elgin, Middlesex, Oxford, and the City of London as we complete the work of the Local Employment Planning Council. As Summer mentioned earlier, if you have any questions about your new Local Employment Planning Council, we welcome you to email us at lepc@workforcedevelopment.ca. The Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities has also set up an email address for questions about the broader LEPC piloting process. If you would like to direct questions to them, they can be reached at lepc ontario.ca. And with that, we will bring today's webinar to a close. A recording of this webinar will be available on the Literacy Link South Central website shortly and linked from workforcedevelopment.ca. Thank you for joining us.